You have to tell me. Hey. Hello, 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 hello. Hi, Facebook. Good evening. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Hello. Tell all your friends we are live. This evening we're going to talk about suffering. So the Lord placed it on my heart after a couple of years of dealing with my mother's passing and a lot of my uncles and my aunt recently. And then just so many people in my church, my congregation, have lost members of their family, and a lot of people have hit crisis all over the place. And so I just kind of wanted to have an opportunity to talk. So we're going to get Instagram on here and see, get our Instagram viewers. Hey, Facebook, if you're on, tell me you're on. Tell me hi. Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, Instagram. Okay, so today we're going to look at really suffering. And so get your friends online. We are here talking about suffering today. I want you to participate with us. Hey, Gabs. I want you to participate. If you have friends or loved ones that are also, that you know of, that have gone through a lot of suffering, please, tell them to come on in so that they could be here as well. Hey, Janaya. Hey. If you have a support team, some people that have been instrumental in helping you get through rough times, send this to them, because sometimes people don't know how to help you, and this is a good opportunity for us to all talk about pain and suffering and loss and grief and look at that together. So I would love it if we all could just come on in and have a heart-to-heart about pain and suffering. So I'm going to let a couple more people come on in. If you're on Instagram, I see Janaya. Hey, Naya. I see Danny Lopez 15. How you doing? Evan the Conqueror. Good to see you, my brother. Just please share it. Tell your friends to get on. Let's talk about how we can be more beautiful than before, more handsome than before after suffering loss and pain, devastation, crisis, all kinds of things. So get your support team. Who in your friends group and who in your family group have been instrumental, and who's your go-to people during this time of crisis in your life? Share this with them. Get them on there so we all can talk about it. And I'm going to give it a couple more minutes. In the studio audience, I don't know if you can see them, but we're going to have Mama Jean and Jewel. They've also suffered some loss themselves. And so we're going to discuss some things with them. And I think that would be very instrumental. They've encountered, Mama Jean has encountered almost a lifetime of loss, and Jewel, her daughter, has also suffered loss as well. So there are countless people I would probably have on with me, but they were willing last minute to just kind of sit through with me. And to be honest, they were really instrumental in a lot of the grief I had to go through, and just sitting with me and talking with me, having experienced the loss of a husband and a father themselves. And it just made a world of difference. So come on in, anybody and everybody. Who we got on Facebook, Gabby?
BJ Hollywood.
BJ, hey. Glenda. Hey, Brian.
Harmony.
Hi, Glenda. Who?
Harmony.
Harmony. Hey, sweetie.
Miss
Hi.
Lisa.
Hi, Lisa. Hi. We're trying to get everybody on. Hey, man, Gabby, I think my ministry account is on, but I need my personal account on, and it needs to be shared to my personal account because it's hard to know about my ministry account. Hey. So we've got some media text today. This time to help us hear your comments, to help us hear your story. We've asked Gabrielle on our media department to read some of your comments and to bring it to my attention when someone has something that they really wanted to share. So we're using a book entitled More Beautiful Than Before by Steve Letter, and he's a Jewish rabbi. And so his perspective is interesting. It's a little Christian, but it does not focus completely on Christianity. So I think it's helpful because no matter what your faith or your belief mechanism, everybody suffers pain and everybody needs some help. So I think that might be one way that we could better, go through it together. So the book is called More Beautiful Than Before, and it talks about how we are transformed through suffering. And that's really what I want us to look at today, how we are transformed through suffering. We're going to take a couple of weeks with this. I don't know how long it's going to last, but please share this with your friends. Get them on live with us now. I want to hear your stories. Hey, Janine Washington. Good to see you, Jean Washington. Chosen for Greatness by Greater. Good to see you. Good to see you. Anthony Marshall. Hey, good to see you guys. Good to see all of you.
Marshawn.
Hey, cuz Marshawn. Hey, that's my cousin. So, what's going on? So, yeah, how can we buy the book? I just Googled it on Amazon. To be honest with you, catch that camera angle, Gabby. It drops on that one. Yeah. But anyway, the purchase, I don't get any kickback from this. Out of all of the books I've read on grief, and I've read some as a pastor, you know, in counseling classes, and then I read this one for my own personal use, and by far, it just put things into words that I felt, you know, and it made sense to me, and I just wanted to share it with people. We're going to use this book. It's called More Beautiful Than Before by Steve Letter. Hey, Daddy. That's my dad. Hey, Joseph Hudson. We're going to use this to talk about transforming through suffering. And I think it's we got to understand why we're going through all of this. And so many people have experienced loss. My cousins lost their mother this year, just a month or two ago, and their father last year. And I lost my mom. My dad lost his wife. I mean, uncles, my cousins lost their dads. I mean, it's just countless people that have just suffered these past couple of years. And I wanted to see what God says about transforming suffering and what we're supposed to do with it, in essence. So if you're on, please comment. Today we're going to look at, and every week we do this. I don't know how long it's going to last, but we'll see how you guys are responding to it. But every week we're going to look at, I want to know your story. I want you to text it, type it. You know, you can be brief, you can be in depth. But one of the things that I've learned is that sometimes we want to know what you're going through for a couple of reasons. It reduces the feeling that we have that we're alone. And grief and loss and pain, it does that. It boxes you in and makes you feel like you're just all by yourself. Even though there may be people around, you can't really resonate if they really haven't endured that type of suffering, and you just feel like you're on an island with a ton of pain by yourself. And just hearing and reading some of the things that other people have gone through, you're like, okay. It just kind of wakes you up a little bit to what else is going on. So I want you to, in just a couple of minutes, I want you to tell me what you lost. You know, what suffering have you been going through in the past couple of years? Thank you so much for your condolences. Hey, comedian Stefan, good to see you. Hey, Keisha. Hey, KC, good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Anybody else? Please share it with your loved ones. Tell everybody to get on live. It's going to be every Friday night at 8 for the next couple of weeks. And so in a couple of seconds, I want to hear what kind of suffering you've gone through. I want everybody to hear it. It will reduce how we feel lonely sometimes and ostracized on that island. Also, it will allow you the space and time that you need to feel it. Yes. You know, when you go through a lot of pain and suffering, you kind of have to compartmentalize, what you say? Yes. Compartmentalize your pain. You know, like, I can't deal with that right now. I have to tend to the kids. I can't deal with that, you know, and it's just so many things that you just don't have time to deal with. And so Friday nights at 8, you have an opportunity to just deal with it. And you really don't know how needed that is, because life has a way of keep ticking past you. And now you can say, you can grab you some tissue, right? And get you a cup of tea, and you can just say, for this moment, for the next 45 minutes or so, I am going to allow myself to feel and to recognize what it is I'm feeling, right? And that's really, really, really important. Hey, I am Timur Monroe. Good to see you. Hey, Pat. Good to see you. That's my dad. Hey, Janine Younger. I haven't seen you in so long. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord bless you. Just wanted to tell everybody, hey, okay. So get your support team on live with us. Share this with your friends and loved ones that you depend on. People that you count on, because not everybody knows what to do when you're suffering. And by opening a dialogue about it, we get to say some things that you may feel uncomfortable saying to those that you really count on to be there for you. So share this with them. Get everybody on. Cousin Marshawn, I know Marshawn, my cousin Marshawn Durham on Facebook, he lost his mother, and he just commented he misses her so much. I feel you on that. I feel you on that. It's a horrible pain, and it just doesn't seem to cease. But I want us to kind of talk about that, you know, in a lot of areas. Mama Jean, what if you tell some people some of the losses that you've encountered in your life?
Well, I've lost a whole lot of people in my life. I can remember first when my mom passed, and after that, I lost my only sister. After that, I lost my dad, and most recently, I just lost my husband. So I have been left with my only daughter, whom I love, of course. But when your family leaves you, you feel like you're alone in the world.
Yeah.
And it's just a very sad and empty feeling. It takes so long to even try to get some normalcy.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that, of course, you'll address all of those things is when you have to go back to that same home, or wherever that person was, and remove their belongings. That brings it all back together. And sometimes you can do that right away, or someone can help you with that, or you've got to do it by yourself. And I remember my parents, for instance, were in Boston, and going back there and not handling it right away. And those things are just like a wound that does not heal. It just reopens.
My goodness, definitely. Jewel?
Yes, I was very close to my dad, my mom's husband, and we were very close. And when I lost him very suddenly. I was 28 at the time, and I just remember at the time that no one around me had experienced that. And I remember feeling so alone, and I'd have people say, "Well, I understand," and I would get so angry about that, Pastor, because I would feel like unless you actually went through it, you cannot tell me that you understand.
Yeah.
And I used to feel, I started to tell people, don't tell me that. Don't say that. I would cringe every single time because I dealt with so much anger, and then I would be jealous, of people. And I say, there's no way you could understand.
Yeah.
You have everything.
Yeah.
You have both parents, and I am so grateful for this time, because when you're grieving, you just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And every day you wake up, you don't want to wake up. You don't want to go forward.
Yes.
And people are trying to encourage you, go forward. And you just get angry with them. Because it's like, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. And you don't have the words, and people don't know how to help you.
Yeah.
And, you just feel like you're drowning for a very long time.
Yeah. Anybody else, if you're live with us and you want to share what you might have lost throughout these past couple of years or in your life, some of your greatest losses, please feel free. I want to pray with you. We're all going to pray. One of the advantages is you're going to have a ton of people praying for you after today. Your name will be called out on days and days, months and months, if not years. So please, if you want to share, go right ahead. Sister Mia, good to see you. Mia Mignon Beasley, good to see you. Hey, Cousin Tashana, I love you, sweetheart. Another cousin that lost her mother and my aunt recently, just less than a couple of weeks ago. Anyone else want to share? Gabby, do you see anyone that I might be missing? Well, it's
Tashana misses her mom.
Tashana misses her mom. Yes. Anyone else that might want to say what they've gone through? Cancer scare, an accident, loss of job, loss of house, any of that. These are all things we're going to look at, all aspects of suffering and different types of suffering.
Yes.
Death is one of the ones that we dread the most because it's irrevocable, but there's suffering that comes in all kinds of ways. In the book we're using, entitled More Beautiful Than Before by Steve Letter, you can get it off of Amazon, is where I found it. It's a good book. He lists all the types of suffering that people go through, just random types, and I thought it was a good list. He says that we all have to go through hell sometimes. We all end up walking through hell. The hell of being hurt, the hell of hurting someone else, the hell of cancer, the hell of a reluctant the hell of reluctancy, the hell of thunking a shovel of earth upon the casket of someone we deeply loved, the hell of divorce, the hell of a kid in trouble, the hell of Alzheimer's, the hell of addiction, the hell of stress and of aging, the hell of knowing that this year, like any year, may be our last. We all walk through hell, the author says. He says, but the point is to not come out empty-handed. The point is to make your life worthy of suffering. What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about it? The point is to make your life worthy of suffering. I mean, that phrase hit me. It hit me for a lot of reasons. Hey, cuz, I just saw my cuz Merrick on there. Hey, cuz, love you, sweetie. It hit me for a lot of reasons. You know, the idea that somehow it's a little bit of my responsibility to bring and add worth to my life after such a painful thing. If you guys hear a lot of noise in the background, it is my pit Roman, who is, you want to show the camera on him. That's him. Hey, Dabupa. So he's just turning 1 this month. So he is chewing on things and having a great time with himself. My other, you guys know Bishop, the Yorkie. He's upstairs asleep because he's a geriatric at this point. But nevertheless, listen, there's all types of suffering that we go through. And I love how the author says the point is to not walk away empty-handed. All right? Not to walk away empty-handed, and to make your life worthy of that suffering. And that just got me. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it put the responsibility on me to say, if this is how much pain you've had to endure,
Yes.
what do you want your life to look like? To kind of say that this is why you're here. You know, it wasn't just a suffering, but this too is why you are here. And it struck a chord with me so much so. Hey, everybody. Hey, T Black Love. Good to see you on Facebook. If you just got on, please just send me a note. Just say hello and let us know that you're here. What do you guys think about that? To make your life worthy of the suffering.
You know, after you've been through the suffering and you've survived, the fact that we are here today, we made it.
Yeah.
Good or bad or indifferent, but you have something to offer to someone else.
Yeah.
And if that's all the least that you can do, is encourage someone or hear them, listen to them, put a hand on their shoulder, walk with them, keep them going, that's worthy. That makes your life honorable. And I think that's so important.
It is. It is. I like how the author said that, you know, there are a lot of lessons that we learn through suffering. And the truth of the matter is that we're always trying to figure out what was the point of it. Why did we go through it? Why was it necessary? And most people talk about, well, it's something you needed to learn. And there was something the author said that was, I mean, it just struck my heart. He says, whenever I'm tempted to dismiss pain as merely a step toward enlightenment, I think about a friend of mine who had cancer 3 times and said to me from his hospital bed before he died, "This much character I don't need." And I just, it got me, because there's so many times where people are telling me, oh, it's going to build character. You know, your suffering, your pain is going to build character in you. You're like, so I literally told somebody, I think we were discussing, you know, transitions in my life after back surgery. And, you know, I had a really bad paralysis a little bit and had to have back surgery and recovery from that. And all the different things that I've gone through. And, you know, when we start talking about me losing my mom, you know, they're like, well, in certain ways you've gotten better, you know, like when I had back surgery, it gave me more temperance and, you know, and they said in certain ways, even now with the loss of your mom, you're a lot more chill, which is true. Certain small things do not bother me nearly as much. You know, has anybody else had that experience?
Yes.
Where you're like, look, that is a small thing and it is not that big of a deal. And that is so true. Hey, GS Deborah, good to see you. Real Life with Josh. Good to see you. Good to see you. It's Mar. Good to see you guys. Good to see you. But I do feel that when they ask me, well, now you can see there are a lot of things that you're going to grow from and change and get better at with the loss of your mother. You know, you've let some small things go. You stop being so anal, so hot-tempered, which is true. And they said, you know, that could be good. I was like, I would have my bad character to get my mom back. And I just, I just flat out said it. I'm a pastor. And I was like, yeah, I will keep my bad character and still get to heaven. Yes, I will not be a better person. And that's the reality of it. You know, at that time, that's really how I felt, that all the good character it could give me wasn't worth the pain. You know, I could resonate with what the author said. Like, I don't need this much character. Get it to somebody else.
It's something you don't want to go through. You don't want anyone else to go through. It's just like when I had cancer. I said, what on earth am I going to do? And I go through all these different things in my mind, and then next thing you know, I know so many other people have had it. And they share their story. And if they have to go through that, I can go through that, and I can be victorious. And it's the state of mind and your presence. And then once you've gone through this, you're so much better for it. And you're able to
That's what we're trying to get to.
Yes.
The rest of us are trying to get to the point where we're so much better for it. Guys, some of us are not quite there yet. The author goes on to say, this is Rabbi Letter, he's a Jewish rabbi. He goes on to say, but the truth is that most often, for most people, real change is the result of real pain. I mean, come on. Like, that is so true for most people. And most often, that real change, true change, is a result of real pain. And it is bothersome, I guess, to know it.
To hear that, you know, your heart stops. You're like, oh, come on. Because we all want change and we all want to be better. But, you know, even when you're going through pain, especially grief and loss, it just feels like it's too much. Like, you can't handle it. Like, and you're overwhelmed by everything. So to know that change can come from that, you know, to have to go through this thing that you feel like you can't even bear, you know, just the thought of it, you know, it's unbelievable to think that you could have to, that this is the path that you have to go through. But because it's so great, I can see how on the other end the change.
I keep, you know, we hold on to testimonies of people that have gone through things, loss of children and parents and grandparents and mothers and aunts and spouses, and we hear their stories and we just take it that they're still breathing and walking and living, that maybe it's possible, even though in that dark place, I think somebody just mentioned that they were just thanking God that they're not in that dark place anymore. I think that was Ashan View. You know, because when you really lost something like that, you do feel like you're in a dark place. And I suppose when you get out of it, you know, a little bit, the sun starts shining a little bit more. You're like, oh, I remember when it was just that. For my cousins who just lost their mother, my aunt, and the burial and the casket picking and the services and that numb ache, you know, and I could remember that even though I'm not exactly in that painful place anymore. And the only thing you go is just, I'm sorry, you know, I'm just so sorry for what you're feeling and what you're going through. Hey, Brittany, good to see you guys. Good to see you guys. The author, Rabbi Letter, he went through a rough car accident, a really bad car accident that really left him with a herniated disc that put him in, as he puts, he spiraled like millions of others into the lethargy and depression of steroids and opiates. The pain was dulled, but the pain was still in charge. And he was a rabbi that he deals with a lot of loss. He deals with suffering and grief and loss as part of his counseling. And he goes into the funerals and families and mothers and fathers that are losing their children and all kinds of crises. And he shares throughout the book some of those encounters and those stories. He says once, he said, when pain visited me, I knew intellectually that I was not making history. I was not the first middle-aged man to have a herniated disc. But pain is not a matter of intellect. It's a matter of the spirit and a matter of the soul. That is, and see, you see why I like the book? Because you do, when you have a loss, you go, I know I'm not the first person to ever deal with this. I'm not the only person that ever felt this, but you know that in your mind, but it is the heart, the spirit, the essence of who you are that really is challenged in the midst of that. You have any comments on that, Mama Jean?
Yes, but look afterwards, you are so much better for it. I know you've lost people, our own family members, and gone through these maybe jobs or illnesses, but then you're able to help someone else. And it's not about you anymore. I mean, when it happens, you have empathy for that person.
Mm-hmm.
You know exactly what they've gone through, will go through each and every step.
Yes.
And then when you make yourself available to someone else, it's a great, it's just a gift. It's a blessing to be able to do that.
I do agree, because Mama Jean and Jewel, when my mother passed, they had experienced that type of loss, and they were so instrumental in, just being present. I mean, we had countless lunches, and if they did not say, you want to go to lunch, I probably would not have left the house. And just constant, and nothing was said. We would just sit, and they understood, the pain, and their loss prepared them to help be there for their own pastor. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Who had just lost something and didn't know what to do. And just, so again, that's one way that you don't even know how worthwhile God wants to add to that suffering. One of the statements that the author uses that I thought was profound, and I think for me, it became something I didn't recognize. Like, as soon as Mommy passed, there were things that I had to do because I was, the only child, and there are certain things that I just had to do. Plan the funeral, Daddy said, you got it. I believe in you. I trust you. You're going to make good choices. So I was like, okay, great. And clearing out the house, and it's and those decisions that had to be made helped in a way that I didn't recognize, is because it forced me to recognize, even when I didn't want life to go on, that it needed to.
Yes.
It must. And I would say, if you can just get to the funeral, do you know what I mean? If you can just get the program written, if you can just get the obituary written, if you could just get this. And there was always something that needed to be done that I needed to do. And subconsciously, it already put my foot, dipped my toe in the idea that life must go on. And I didn't even know it,
Yes.
The author makes a quote. He says, when you must, it's a very common saying, you can. And I think that summed up those first couple of weeks, months, when you must, you can. And I distinctly remember times when somebody would mention, Mommy might pass or somebody might pass, and I never want to think about that.
Yes.
Never want to think about it, because I don't know. I didn't even think I would be sane. I couldn't handle it. And as now it's been 2 years, there are certain things that are a must that I need to do, and lo and behold, I can. And there was a quote he gave from Theodore Roosevelt. He said, "Courage is not having the strength to go on. It is going on when you don't have the strength." Can we just, you see why I like the book?
Yes.
Courage is not having the strength to go on. It is going on when you don't have the strength. And I resonated with that.
Yes.
Gabby was like, yeah, you did. It was like, I don't have the strength, and you just drag yourself one foot after the other. Hey, Lonita. Hey, your wise chef. Hey, Dr. Smith. Good to see you, handsome. Hey, One Solid Champ. Faces 83. Good to see you. Good to see you guys all. Thank you for hearting it up on Facebook. Thank you for joining on Instagram. We're just talking about suffering and the transformation that happens through it. And one day, one foot after the other, is how you just did it. You never thought you could.
Right.
You never thought you could.
Yes.
I never thought I could be sane. I thought, drug me up, lock me in a room, and I'm not coming out. But because there were things that I had to do, I found that I did them.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the benefits of having kids, children, someone else to tend to, I must. I must. I didn't have any kids. I had a Yorkie, but I had a church, I had a church, some adult babies.
Yes.
And at some point I went back to assist with them. There was a quote that he gives us in Psalms chapter 6, verse 6. And I know a lot of us are at different stages of dealing with our loss and different stages of dealing with our pain. But over the next couple of weeks, I want to start at the beginning of those things. And maybe you've already progressed past it, but we can go back and check to see if that thing is really healing in the right direction. And for those of us that are just, that pain is fresh, maybe you're not going to get all of it in this conversation because it's too new, but later you can go back. Hopefully it'll still be posted. You can go back and hear it a little bit better. That's all. This camera ain't go right here on the Instagram. Mm-hmm. But here's what Psalm 6 says. I am feeble and utterly crushed. I groan in anguish of heart. I am weary with groaning. Every night I drench my bed. I melt my couch with tears.
So true.
I mean, that's it.
So true.
That's it. I mean, you just get tired of crying.
Yeah.
You know, I remember with my cousin Tashana that I was just thinking to myself, I know that pain when you cried so much that you can't breathe and you have to choose crying or breathing because I can't do both.
Yes.
Like it's too much congestion, it's too much everything. And it's like if I keep crying, I'm not going to be able to breathe. And then you choose to stop crying for the sake of breathing. Like that is just, I remember that, you know, where the agony, the nausea of the pain. Hey, GK, it's good to see you, brother. And it is so true. There was a VA, a veteran, that wrote a poem because when he was wounded after war. And he says in his poem, this is Ray Bootnier. He wrote, I have been broken. I have been beaten. The drugs battle what I cannot. Morphine versus pain. My body is the battlefield. My sanity is the casualty. I mean, truly, another type of suffering.
Yes.
To be a prisoner to your own body and to have to pick, you know, between do I want to just feel overly large amounts of pain at the risk of just temporary bits of sanity, you know, and you're constantly battling between moments of sanity where you can experience the pain and handle the pain, and then I need a break from the pain, you know, and what's on the line with that is now I'm a little incoherent. Now I'm not mentally myself, and that is so true of so much suffering and loss. Like you have to pick between that, and I think I've shared this at my church, and I like to share it too because some people don't know. But when my mother passed, I think by the second year, me and my therapist, we did, and yes, I do believe that Christians should go to therapy. But I have been going to my therapist for checkups as a pastor because you don't know when you're sick until you're too sick, you know. So I would go to my therapist, you know, at least once or twice a year for a checkup mentally and emotionally. But when mommy passed, I had to go very often. And it got to the point where suicidal thoughts were just overwhelming. And I thought more about how I prefer, you know, to die. And then even more so, you fantasize about how you would do it. And at that point, I knew from my experience that I needed, something was wrong, you know. And yeah, exactly, Daddy. Therapy works. You know, I made sure Daddy had a year of therapy. He forced him to go right after Mommy passed. And we still talk about how much of a blessing that is. And, so if you are at that stage of depression, like, maybe you don't know what it is, maybe you don't know what it feels like, and maybe different for other people. But for me, I really recognized it when I knew I wanted to feel happy for a second. And I'm used to wrapping my mind around, you know, if that's what you want to do, then here's what you need to think. You need to think it, you need to get it done, and you can do it.
Yes.
And I couldn't. And I remember one sunny Saturday, about a year and a half after Mommy passed, I was walking across the street to go to brunch, and that's my favorite thing. Brunch on a sunny day, and it was a new restaurant, so you know I'm excited. And I was like, I can't wait to do this. And I was crossing the street, and I said, I'm looking forward to this. I just want to have just a happy moment. And by the time I crossed the street, all that I had worked up to enjoy it, just like sand, fell through my hands, and it was back to just kaplunk.
Yeah.
And I was just dark and numb, and I just could not. I'm one of those, I can achieve it. Yeah. I can do it. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you just tell me what the goal is, I'm gonna make it happen. And my brain said, you're not. You're not capable of all of these things. Yeah. You're not, and it's humbling. Yeah. Yes. And for those of you that might be experiencing depression, and you want to know, when is it too much? you know, that's one of the signs that you probably need to see a psychologist, a therapist, your pastor, someone that could really direct you to what you need. And then two, I recognize that, like I said, when you start to really fantasize about how you would kill yourself, maybe an indication, is a strong indication that you need to really call a hotline, call a pastor, call a therapist, get somebody on the phone. And what me and my therapist talked about, hey, Brother Tory, is just that, you know, that, you know, chronic depression is a chemistry thing in your brain, and trauma affects the chemistry, how your brain produces certain hormones that make you happy or give you calmness, or reduce your anxiety. And when crisis hits and trauma hits, all of those hormones are dropped way low instantly. And typically over time, your brain could recover. But there are other extenuating factors that could happen in your life that does not allow that recovery to happen as soon as it is needed. And for me, it was a stress of pastoring that really did not give the levels of stress hormones, did not allow the recovery necessary, and thus they recommended antidepressants. And so I've been on antidepressants for about 9 months so far, and I've tried 2 different types, and I will admit the desire to fantasize about death reduced greatly. Thank God for that, you know. It doesn't remove the pain, but it allows another thought to happen besides that, and that's what I needed. It did give me man brain, you know, like I was easily distracted. You know, we talk about it. Some of the men at the church, we discuss my man brain. Like I forgot things most often. I'm like, where are my glasses? Like my dad goes, and it's like, they're on your face. Oh, you know, and so there was something, and I guess what I'm trying to say from the veteran's poem is that there's something that is a casualty of the pain that you have to go through, and you really have to decide which one is more important, you know. And for me, I might look a little more dumb, I might be a little bit more forgetful, it may take me longer to process thoughts, but that is a reasonable casualty to still breathe and to be there for my family and my church as needed. So any comments on that? What are you guys saying on Facebook? Where do you guys stand? I see. What's up, Mr. Majestic? That's the Tory. What else? You guys, what do you think about that? Any comments on those things?
Yes, you know how you were saying you were walking across the street going to
Yes.
breakfast? Even with time passing, the slightest memory
Yes.
can trigger and bring you back.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you're down again.
Yes. Yes.
And so, and I'm saying these are with me even after years. And so you have to constantly fight and then try to remember the good. And it's so important to surround yourself with people.
Yes.
If you don't have any friends or any, you know,
Yes.
connected outside interests, it can be very, very sad.
Yes.
Very sad.
Mama Jean, I think that is an excellent point. To anybody out there, listen, you are on my live feed, you're on my Instagram, you're on my Facebook. DM me if you don't have a support group, if you don't have anybody that you could talk to. I think that is probably one of the greatest things. Surround yourself with people that love you, that are there, that can care for you. And if you don't have anybody like that, I volunteer. Anybody else want to volunteer? If you're watching, can you raise your hand up? Like, hey, anybody need me? DM me. I volunteer. I volunteer to be your pen pal, to reach out to you, to check on you, to encourage you. You know, we need that, and because you don't recognize how much you need it until you get it. And if you're anything like me, you be like, I don't need that. I'm fine. I'll figure this out. And then you realize I'm not fine. No. I'm sinking. Yes. I am sinking. I am sinking. I am sinking. What's up, Michael? That's my cousin. Hey, cuz, I love you so much. I love you so much. So please, that's one of the things I learned and I loved about what he said. There was a family in the author's book that I thought was the story that he gave. It was about a couple, a husband and a wife. And their child was born with a very rare disease, like 1 in 100,000 to 250,000 newborns has this disease. And they were told that the baby couldn't, what's it called? Metabolize copper, which is a trace element that we need in our bodies. But so the baby only had a couple of months to live. over the next few months, the baby would die, and that's what the doctors were telling him. And this rabbi, the author of the book, was called in to sit with the family. And for months on end, he would go in and they would have coffee and they would just talk about nothing or everything. And they would talk about what death is going to be like for the kid and what they're going to experience. And it broke my heart to hear it, but it also, stories like that make me go, if this couple can do it, if this couple can make it, if I look at Mama Gina, I'm like, if she can make it after so much loss. And in my family, maybe similar to yours, we lost so many things back to back to back to back. My cousin Jewel, my Uncle Mark, then my mom, then my Uncle Jonathan, then my Uncle Gary, then Uncle Jonathan, then Uncle Gary, then Aunt Sharon. He's like constant. And then my extended family, you know, they lost people. And it was just, we're all sitting there going, it's stacking up, you know? It's stacking up. And then I read stories like this and I'm like, okay, all right, somebody's making it and let's figure out how. The author says the most chilling thing, he said, was that there were, as he had to deal with this child and they talked for months, I told them that how death would affect their son, who was 3 at the time. So they had a son that was 3 years old that was losing his baby sister. And I told them that your son would have an old soul for the rest of his life. And that has turned out to be true. He said there was a rabbi in Jerusalem that survived Auschwitz. Did I say that right? Auschwitz? Yes. All right. The most chilling thing he said was that there are no children there. No matter what your age, and he was 6 at the time, you became an adult as soon as you walked through the electrified barbed wire fence. There were no children in Auschwitz. I mean, that is sobering. And he goes on to say, you don't really become a grown-up until you suffer some sort of real deep pain. What do you think? Tell me. I mean, do you guys agree with that? I mean, that is, you really don't. And the idea that kids have to grow up so fast when they suffer stuff like this. Like you instantly grow up, you know, and to be a child at a concentration camp, you know, and to walk in the door, you're no longer a child. You're dealing with grown-up issues. You're dealing with grown-up suffering and grown-up pain. And a lot of us, I mean, you guys that are watching live on Instagram and Facebook, you've had to grow up, you know, a lot faster than some of us. I was privileged, you know. My deepest verse was my grandmother, and I was, you know, in college by then. You know, but some people had to deal with things at 6, 3, 12, 14, you know, and you're grown up, you know, dealing with that. There's a quote, and I'm going to hurry because we got like 3 minutes. You guys been enjoying this? If you want to say anything, please comment, text it out. I would love to read it and to hear what you have to say. And again, please share it with your family and friends. But there was something the author said about suffering and loss and about pain. Because he told the parents that lost their child this story about how kids grow up quickly when they suffer pain. And he said, I told them that though it was not worth the price of their sadness, they would have another child that they would have never had otherwise without this horrible tragedy. And they did. He says a beautiful girl is what they had. Nothing would ever be worth their suffering, but neither was their suffering worthless. Come on! There it is. Yes. There is the statement. There is the statement that you need to hear. I mean, when I read this, I said, that's it. Because you're trying to figure out what good can come out of this that's so worth it. What lesson did I have to learn that was so needed? You know what I mean? Yes. And then he comes along and says something. I'm going to read it again because it was that good. He says, nothing would ever be worth their suffering, but neither was their suffering worthless. I mean, for those of you that experience all types of trauma and loss and abuse and cancer and survival and loss of limbs and all types of things, nothing is worth that type of suffering. There would never be anything that's worth it. You can't say what you got from it that would have been worth it. No money on earth, nothing. No lesson, no character. He said, but your suffering doesn't have to be worthless. It has value. And I think that just, And if you're commenting today, if you're commenting tonight, all these comments, listen, let me tell you something. From those that are commenting from places of pain and hurt, you're adding worth, value to your suffering. Somebody else is seeing, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not by myself. Okay, well, we are out of time, guys. I have had a wonderful conversation. Thank you to Mama Jean and to Jewel. I don't know who might be on next week. Maybe it'll be the same, maybe it'll be different. I don't know. I'm kind of playing this by ear. I just wanted an opportunity to reach those who have had a lot of suffering and loss in their lives, and to discuss ways that it transforms us, as I am still being transformed by my loss. And I welcome you to find new ways that you can be transformed too. Listen, if you don't have a support system, DM me. Okay, DMs could be more than just hookups. They can be more than spam. Okay, DM me if you don't have someone that you feel like you can turn to. Listen, some people raise their hand on Instagram. Some people raise their hand on Facebook. If you can, type I'm here. You know, if you don't know how to do a raise hand emoji, just type I'm here. And then you guys can go to their profile and see if you want to depend on them to create a support system for yourself. If you need information about counseling and therapy in your area, I can find it for you. But ultimately, I just want you to know that you're loved and that you're not alone. And next week, we'll do the same thing again. And we'll talk more in depth about how suffering transforms us. Before you go, let's pray. You can take a second. All right. Father, we thank you right now, God, for your tender mercy, for your loving kindness. We thank you, Lord, for those that are watching today, for those that are listening, and for the days to come that will go by this post, God, and that are suffering. We lift each and every heart before you. Those that are suffering with grief, with rejection, with trauma, with bad doctor's notices and reports, God, those that are suffering from someone doing them wrong, those that are suffering for doing something wrong to somebody else, suffering the pain of doubt and loss, depression. We lift every heart before you. You are the healer. Today we need strength. We need strength to do what we didn't think we had strength to do. We need to carry on yet one more day. And as this evening comes to the close and this week comes to an end, we thank you that we made it. We thank you that the sun has set on yet another day, that we took another step forward, no matter how shaky. And we look forward to waking up again. We're trying to look forward to waking up and embracing what was worth and how our suffering had any value to it. We look forward to it. We look for hearts that we could touch, lives that we could change. And we thank you that you're sending people to impact our lives. You're sending a word, a comfort. You're sending listening ears and prayers going up on our behalf as we reach out to so many people. Everybody's going through some type of hell. Let us be there for one another. Regardless of race, creed, or religion, let us be there. Let's be human. We thank you, Father, for your grace, for your mercy, for your loving kindness. Touch every heart. It's in Christ's name we pray. Amen. Amen, guys. I love you so very much. You are loved by me, by Christ, and by everybody else. Okay, don't you forget it. I'll see you again, all right, Friday at 8 live. If you liked it, share it, please. Go back and watch it again. Tag your friends, start a Facebook watch party, get on Instagram and share it. We'll be doing the same thing Friday night at 8 o'clock. And listen, next time, take courage and share with us what you're going through. We want to know. It helps us. And it will help you. All right? I love you guys so much and have a wonderful evening. Say bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Instagram. Bye, Facebook. Bye, everybody. I love you. I love you. I love you. DM me if you need anything. Okay.